Well, we got some injury updates from Mike Hall Jr. and JOK. We'll talk about what those injuries updates are. The deep dive with the Browns draft. We're going to talk Shedeur Sanders. We're going to talk Coach Prime. We're going to talk Travis Hunter. We're going to talk Cam Ward. We got Dane Brugler, some comments from him. We'll talk about all of these things coming up in this episode of The Ultimate Browns. Yeah, let's get it going. Let's get it jumping. It's the Friday edition, of course, of Ultimate Browns. I'm your host, G. Bush. Right here, we give you 2 episodes each and every week. We give you clips each and every week. And we want to thank you for checking out the UCSS Network and the Ultimate Browns. We got a great show planned for you today. Mike Hall Jr., injury update, some breaking news with that. It's a tough one. We'll see. We'll talk about what's going on with him. Also, some updates with JOK and why I think that his injury is a little more serious than we once thought. We'll talk about that and his injury update. We also will get into the deep dive for the Cleveland Browns draft ideas, right? Right now, the Browns are 2-7. They're going into this week. They need, some infusion of young talent. We'll talk about some of the big names that we've heard from. Dane Brugler was on UCSS this week. You'll hear from him. You'll hear him on a couple other places as well, talking about Cam Ward, Shedeur Sanders, Travis Hunter. I'm really excited about those 3 candidates. We'll talk about that too. And something that I've been bringing up for a lot of time here on Ultimate Browns as we've been talking about it. Are the Cleveland Browns ready for the Sanders family, right? Is the community ready, right? Because you know when Coach Prime coming to the game and Coach Prime getting here, Coach Prime got different ways that he get down. We'll talk about Coach Prime. We'll talk about Shedeur Sanders. And is the fan base ready for the primetime reality show that is the Sanders that they will have to take on if they do draft Shedeur Sanders, if they have a top 10 pick. But first, let's get to the most pressing things right now. So, something came up earlier today, and it was Mary Kay Cabot. Mary Kay tweeted this out. Browns, Kevin Stefanski said Mike Hall Jr. has a knee, and he's out for a period of time and is a candidate for injured reserve. Boy, oh boy. I was on Sports for CLE, and this news kind of came down when I was on the air, and we talked about it a little bit as well. This is a big blow for Mike Hall Jr. He had the off the field issues. He looked pretty good when he came back. He was able to do some really nice things in his film work against the Baltimore Ravens. Now you get a situation where you give up Zadarius Smith and you move on from him. Alex Wright is already out. You already have somebody like JOK, which we'll talk about here in a second. Now you have Mike Hall Jr., who is out, according to Mary Kay Cabot. And the thing that gets me in with this tweet and makes it seem like this is more likely going to be something that's a little more serious is he's going to be out for a period of time. And you know how the Browns get. G14 classified, they don't tell us nothing. He will be a candidate for injured reserve. Anytime you're a candidate for injured reserve, that means, 4 games or so, or more likely it could be a little bit longer than that. We don't know. But the thing that really gets me is, the Browns were looking to see more for Mike Hall Jr. The Browns were looking to get to a place where Mike Hall Jr. was going to be one of those pillars, one of those guys that you looked at and said, we want to go with the youth movement. I've been saying for a lot, hey, where's Kadarius Toney? Show me Jamari Thrash. Give me some of these young dudes. We don't need to be seeing at some point in time. I'm sure they'll go to DTR a little bit too to see what he has. Bernie Kosar talked about that. Jason Lloyd of The Athletic talked about that. When you're 2-7 and there's very little hope for you making the playoffs, we want to see what we can hang our hat on. I don't really want to see guys out there that you're not going to bring back. You're not going to bring back Elijah Moore like that. So why is Cedric Tillman not out there all the time? I want to see him inside. I want to see him outside. I want to see him at different positions. If you got some young guys, make sure at some point, I wouldn't mind seeing Zach Zenner again, right? So these are all the things that you're going to be wanting to look to get some of these young guys some minutes. And Mike Hall Jr. was one of the guys who you looking at Andrew Berry squarely at his roster, because right now he's getting evaluated. Andrew Berry is being evaluated for the guys he's taking. And so when you look at a guy like Siaki Ika, who's no longer on his team, Anthony Schwartz, the David Bells of the world, you got a guy like Mike Hall Jr., who was a second-round pick, who you put a lot of onus on. You've already missed on guys like Perrion Winfrey before in the third round, right? So this was a pick that you were expecting to get a guy to come in and maybe take over that starting role by the end of the season. Mary Kay had just tweeted out that they think he could play a little inside and outside with his versatility. He ends up doing a drill in practice and tweaking a knee. And now you look at it and you now have guys who you were high on. Alex Wright is now out for the season. You now have Mike Hall Jr., who could be on injured reserve. And, so these injuries to me, and I'll look at it like this too. Something has to be talked about at the strength and conditioning level. What are the Browns doing that in their conditioning program, and what is the offseason training program like, where you got a lot of guys who are either not making it through seasons, and trust me, injuries are part of the game and you can't really plan for that. But the problem is you have guys who've never really quite gotten back. The whole thing with Jed Wills earlier this week was he's been dealing with these injuries. He's been dealing with a bone bruise since last year. He had a minor procedure. I'm gonna say anything is minor when you talk about cutting, but doing the surgery. But he expected to be back ready to go, and he's lingered along. Jack Conklin lingered along a little bit more. And so when you got these injuries that are coming about and guys are starting later, not coming back in a timely fashion, and guys are being injured, I got to start looking at my strength and conditioning program a little more to figure out, are we doing everything that we can do to get these guys' bodies ready and prepared for the season? And how can we keep them healthy, and how can we keep our guys on the field? Another one, we'll talk about this one, JOK, prayers out to JOK. Hicks, Jordan Hicks talked a little bit today, and he spoke about JOK. And what the alarming thing what Jordan Hicks was saying was he's saying some things like, JOK's injuries to his neck and some of those things. I know the report came out that talked about, hey, he's able to move his extremities and he looks like he's cool in that area. But it's a difference between being able to move your extremities and playing football at a high level. I also was on Sports for CLE, and we kind of talked about this a little bit as well. I'm going to let you hear Jordan Hicks a little bit and see if you could pick up on some of the stuff that I'm picking up on when he says he's looking for a kind of a miraculous comeback. It makes it sound like this is going to be a more of a longer term situation with JOK, and I'm hoping it's not a career threatening type thing. You never want to put that type of energy out there, but this seems to be a little more of an extensive injury than we once thought with JOK. This is courtesy of the Cleveland Browns, and this is Jordan Hicks talking about JOK specifically.
Because we play this game because we love it. We sacrifice our bodies for it, right? And we understand the risks that are involved in it. But at the end of the day, you see something like that and it's real life. I look at my life and I've got 3 kids and a wife at home, and it's like, what if I were to come home like that? And so, he's got family that he loves, people that care about him more than just what he can do on the field, right? And so it puts things in perspective, and you hope and you pray that he's going to make a miraculous recovery, right? And so I don't know, it's just hard, it's tough, but you rally around him and you rally around each other.
So when you start talking about, what if I went home like that? I'm thinking, like, what does that mean? And he starts talking about, he has people that look out for him and love him more than what he's able to do on the football field. You're like, okay, he's kind of tough. You rally around him. We're just hoping he has a miraculous comeback. I'm hoping these are just things that he's saying, and it kind of sounds worse than what it is. But from my perspective, ever since I saw him on the field, coming from individuals who's had neck surgery and back surgery and still deals with a chronically really messed up neck. Like, I understand what comes with that. Feeling comes and goes. The aches, the pains, the nerve issues that come along with that. And when I saw him on the field and the way he was laying there and he was saying that, something along the lines that he couldn't move certain places, it was really strange, and it was really scary for me because I've been through those type situations. And just to hear Jordan Hicks, one of his teammates, to talk like that, it makes you think that, hey, this may be something more extensive. For me, when I heard this, in my mind, I know I already ruled out JOK coming back from this year, because I know it's a difference between, hey, I can walk and talk and I can move my arms, then I'm going to be able to run sideline to sideline and use my body in the way that JOK was able to move his body. He's a unique specimen of a person who's able to be that twitchy, that quick. And anytime you're dealing with a neck, anytime you're dealing with nerves, that's your livelihood. Can you run? Can you run sideline to sideline? Are you able to stick your nose in and tackle a guy? He's not the biggest guy in the world. Can he still have confidence that I'm going to move around, evade blockers, and shoot in there like a missile and knock guys down and get them on the ground? Those are all different things that I really think could be a little bit difficult. Prayers out to JOK. Hopefully he makes a comeback, and hopefully he's able to resurrect his career and get everything going back on. But first and foremost, we just hope that he's able to live a productive life, especially when it comes to something, seriously like that. So for the Cleveland Browns, I joked today, you got Myles Garrett. He's one of the better players that is available in the league anywhere. I think he's a top 5 player, but once again, it seems to be down to just Myles Garrett again. We've been dealing with this on again and off again for 5 years. Your playmakers seem to be falling off like flies. You got Mike Hall Jr., who's out. You got JOK, looks like he could be extended out. Both guys talk about IR. And then you got Denzel Ward, who's had a long history of concussions and things like that. You still got Nick Chubb trying to come back from injury. Deshaun Watson is out for the year with the Achilles. So it's one of those things where, when it hits hard. And right now the Cleveland Browns are very banged up. And instead of coming out of this bye week with some guys getting some good news, it seems like they come out of the bye week with 2 more playmakers that look like they may be taken off the board for a sustained period of time. With that being said, when we come back, let's talk about the future a little bit. We talk about the present. We know you're 2-7, but when you are 2-7, that means you got to talk draft. And I've been wanting to talk draft for a long time. We'll come back and take a deep dive into the Cleveland Browns draft ideas. We'll get into some of what Dane Brugler said right here on the UCSS network about whether or not the Browns are considering taking a quarterback, and is that the foregone conclusion? We'll talk about that coming back next. It's G. Bush here, right here on the UCSS network. When we talk about it, Cavs 13-0, best story in all of the NBA. 13-0, they take on tonight. They got the Chicago Bulls with an opportunity to go 14-0. Let's get it together. Jason Lloyd and Mikey McNuggets got the best basketball podcast right here available for you on the UCSS network. All you got to do, hit that notification bell, and you'll know when you get all of the updates for the Ultimate Cavaliers. Make sure you check those guys out as well. Shout out to my man, Earl the Pearl. It's his birthday weekend. He got a lot of stuff going on, but make sure you check out once a week the Ultimate 216 right here on the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show YouTube channel. Gives you a mix of sports and culture, and he does that at a high level. Make sure you're checking him out as well right here, and hit the notification so you know when we going live and we doing things like Behind the Glass as well. It's all here for you on the best channel on the net. It's the UCSS network. Welcome back to the fastest 30 minutes in all of sports. It's G. Bush right here on the UCSS network. We want to thank you guys for making The Ultimate Browns, one of the most successful shows on the internet. Continue to make us everyday listen, whether it's through our clips, whether it's through our memberships, or if you're listening to our podcast, wherever you download and get your podcast. We appreciate you guys and continue to support us over here on YouTube. So let's get to this, man. I've been wanting to talk about the Browns and getting to the NFL draft for a long period of time. I think that's the most excitement level that I've had for the draft in a while. Even though, like, people will say this is a lower quarterback class, it just doesn't have the top of the food chain in terms of the ready-made guy that everybody has a consensus on. I'm going to say this. There's guys in this draft like Travis Hunter, who to me is a bona fide number one worthy overall pick. I think he's one of the best receivers in the game. I think he's the best corner, bar none, in the game. I think he's the best playmaker in this game. Great character. He's a great guy. We're going to be talking about Travis Hunter along this process a lot more. But the thing that always gets people moving is the quarterback. Dane Brugler was on with UCSS. He had an opportunity to talk about some of these quarterbacks in his class and whether or not it was worthy of the Browns taking that pick, and who's going to ultimately make that decision, the owner, GM, or the coach. This is Dane Brugler right here on UCSS this week, talking about the Browns and who they need to look at and what kind of draft class this might possibly be.
I will say that I'm an Andrew Berry fan. I think there's a lot of good things going on with that Browns front office. I don't think it matters much when we know that a lot of the strings being pulled are from above them. And that's going to be more of the doubt with this team moving forward than anything else.
Yeah, that's certainly there, no doubt about it. We're all concerned, but ultimately, we don't know who's making the final decisions for sure. And Andrew Berry's got to hold the bag for Okay, we think we might. We think we might, but
yeah.
Ultimately, with the last 5 first-round picks, the Browns have drafted Greg Newsome, who's just a guy, Jedrick Wills, who stinks, Deshaun Watson, who stinks. So whoever's to blame, it's been terrible, and it's just crushed the franchise at this point.
Oh, there's no doubt. When you draft a quarterback in the top 10, though, it's not a GM decision; it's an ownership decision.
Sure.
It's that's with every organization. The Patriots. If it was up to the Patriots last year, I think that they might have gone a different direction. But Kraft wanted a quarterback, so Drake May was the pick. I think every organization's a little bit different, but we know with the Browns that, especially if you have a top 10 pick, the ownership is going to have his thumb on the scale with the way that they're looking at that pick. And it just so happens that trending towards a top 10 pick this year, their first rounder in 3 years, this is not a great quarterback class. It's a quarterback class with a lot of question marks. It's hard to have positive conviction about this group. Now, Cam Ward from Miami has a ton of upside. Shedeur Sanders has maybe the best floor of the group. You feel good about him as a quarterback, but there's some question marks there. There's not one quarterback in this class that you can point to and say, oh yeah, we'll draft him top 10 and he instantly makes us a better organization. Where at this time last year, Caleb, you were ready to say that about Caleb. You were ready to say that about Drake May, Jaden Daniels. This year, it's just a much different quarterback class.
So, you take a look at that, and you have the names like a Cam Ward, you have a Shedeur Sanders. We'll talk about Shedeur Sanders a little bit coming up here later in this in the segment, and what all that he brings to the table. Specifically, when you look at him on the field, you list some of the things that Dane was talking about there. I think he has a really high floor. I think Shedeur Sanders has played a lot of football. I think he's played a lot of great football. And this is from CBS Sports, and it talks about, what Shedeur Sanders is, what best fits that he has. Right here, they have a best fit for New York, the Raiders, and the Titans. Sanders is an older prospect, and I think that's why his floor is where it is. He is 23 or 24 years old. And he'll be entering the draft with a lot of different games under his belt. He's played a lot. A lot of these kids are playing more because of the COVID rules. They're coming out of college. They're coming out of college with more experience. The DTR was another guy who played a lot of college football at UCLA. So these guys, Shedeur Sanders, the Bo Nix coming out a year ago, these guys got a lot of games under their belt. And it talks about they believe Sanders needs somewhat of a disciplinary with serious NFL credibility to keep him in line when things aren't going perfectly to begin his career. So maybe that duo in New York City in the media spotlight would be an ideal match. The Raiders should be in on everyone, but I love Sanders in Las Vegas, although a team shouldn't make a quarterback decision in the draft based on the impact of the ticket sales and media attention. It has also been a long time coming for the Raiders to take a big swing at a quarterback. You look at that, and when you take a look at Shedeur Sanders, you know, if you looking at their head coach is more of a disciplinarian. He's not going to play no games with you. It's a big city. It's a bright city. It's Vegas. It kind of fits into what Prime Time and Coach Prime and Shedeur Sanders are like. But I want to say this. Shedeur Sanders is not a bad kid. He's not a headache. He's not a dude that's not going to work his tail off. Like, when people talk about all the other stuff that come with Shedeur Sanders, that has to do with just who his father is and coming up in that spotlight. But when it talks about classroom, solid character, no character issues off the field. You don't have to worry about him being a person who does not have mentoring. He has plenty of that from his father. He's a guy who's been very productive. He's taken a Colorado team for where they were with one win to now being a guy who is, you know, they control their destiny coming up this weekend against Utah. Going to be a big time game. They control their destiny in the Big 12. So when you look at Shedeur Sanders and you look what he's able to do, I think Pat Shurmur is a good influence on him. Pat Shurmur is now the offensive coordinator out there, who's been a long-time coordinator throughout the league, head coach of the Cleveland Browns, head coach multiple places. So he has a lot of the pedigree. He is not going to be, the stage ain't going to be too big for him. When we talked to Dane, he talked about it is, Shedeur Sanders does not have what you would say a spectacular arm. He has a good arm. He has good accuracy. He has good ball placement. He doesn't have if you ask me, his arm is probably a B+ arm, B+ A- arm. He doesn't have the A+ arm. I would go more with a B+, but he's very accurate, knows the system, can make all the throws with anticipation, and he has he has professional coaching at that level. The thing that scares me a little bit about Shedeur Sanders, he does have some turnover-worthy plays, and the thing that gets me with him is he holds the ball a lot. He takes a lot of sacks. Last year, he took some sacks at Colorado. Offensive line wasn't good, but when you're used to holding the football and you continue to hold the football, if you're the Cleveland Browns and you got guys like Deshaun Watson who held the football a long time and took a lot of sacks, are you going to run that back and have the same situation possibly happen with Shedeur Sanders? You got to get that ball out in time. I know you want to extend plays, but is that something that this coaching staff is going to be able to coach out of him in terms of what he is on the football field? We'll talk about what he is off the football field, but before we do that, let's get to Cam Ward. We've heard of what they said about Shedeur Sanders, him and his upside. This clip is from courtesy of 310 football. This was Dane Brugler doing his two-step. He's all around the same day talking about the draft. He's talking about some of the upsides and downsides of Cam Ward, who he feels could be possibly the number one overall quarterback in this draft.
Now with Cam Ward, I get the glass half full with him because the upside, the progress he has shown. He's 6'2", 225, electric arm, the elusiveness in the pocket. It helps creates opportunities, but he plays really loose, and that's just, it's a double-edged sword, right? It's what makes him dangerous as a play creator, but also that loose decision-making leads to negative plays. And every tape, there's examples of both, where there's some turnover-worthy plays, plays where he's holding the ball too long, taking sacks, but then, he pulls a rabbit out of his hat and is able to make this remarkable play you just don't see very often. So with him, I'm encouraged by the progress, like I said, because he was a wing T quarterback in high school.
strict air raid at Incarnate Word and then Washington State. This year with Shannon Dawson, offensive coordinator at Miami, they're doing some new things that we haven't seen Cam Ward do. And so you see the talent, you see the upside. The character stuff has been great. Smart guy, confident leader. So all the stuff you hear along those lines are positive. And then, I think the biggest thing with me with Cam is I just want to see him do it against a defense that I respect.
And that was courtesy of Yahoo Sports. I said 310-301 is the name of that podcast. You hear a lot of what we talked about with Shedeur Sanders. And that's why when you hear a guy like Dane Brugler talk about, hey, look, this isn't a slam dunk class. This isn't a number one guy, that Jaden Daniels of the world, and even some of the guys that are in the league right now struggling. But when we look at Richardson, we look at Bryce Young struggled a little bit. We're looking at Caleb Williams struggling. Their coordinator just got fired. These guys need some tutelage, and Bernie talked about this as well. You can't just drop these guys back there and go 5 wide and tell you to win the game. That's not what we're looking at here. Deshaun Watson has been throwing for 4,000 yards in this league, and he couldn't do it. So there's going to need to be some seasoning. There's going to need to be a plan involved. And if you want these guys to turn out to be something. But I do think those two guys, to me, Carson Beck is throwing a bunch of interceptions. It looked like he's reverted. Dane talked about him coming out right now. If Carson Beck came out, he'd be a 4th-round pick. Right now, those two are the guys, but they're going to need some tutelage as well. To me, the guy that I would trade, I wouldn't say trade at all because, I don't want to be hyperbole with this, but Travis Hunter, to me, I'd take him 1st overall. I mean, this guy, and if you're going to take a Travis Hunter, you got to play him. I don't want to hear none of this stuff. Well, you got to play him. Well, no, you let him be dynamic. Like, you can't play him 60 snaps either way, but he's going to be in offensive meetings, defensive meetings. We're going to manage this thing. But if you get a guy like him, Travis Hunter can change the game on both sides of the football. You got to use the young man. He's one of the best. He's the Shohei Ohtani of college football. And a lot of these coaches, if you had Shohei Ohtani, you wouldn't let him be Shohei Ohtani. You wouldn't. And that's the reason why it's going to take a big-time organization and a big-time coach that's going to have to take a chance to say, I'm betting it all on this kid, and this kid can get it done, and I think he can play both ways. Because, I mean, this guy's special. I mean, some of the routes that he's jumping, I mean, he's taking little bubble, quick screens, and he's just a football player. I see him win games in every single conceivable way, knocking the ball at the goal line. I mean, he's just super dynamic. But I think it's going to come down to Shedeur Sanders and Cam Ward. I think they'll both go in the top 3. People will say they didn't get a good draft class, but trust me, when it comes down to the nitty-gritty and your team is drafted in the top 10, that owner is going to knock on your door and say, hey, I need you to take one of these quarterbacks, and this is how we're going to move with it. And I think that's part of what's going to come down the pipeline. When we come back, one of the things that comes with one of the quarterback, and that's Shedeur Sanders, is there's a lot of glitz and glamour that comes with it. Coach Prime is very opinionated, and Coach Prime has already talked about he's choosing where he's going. He's pulling the Mannings. He's pulling the Archie Manning. He said, listen, I'm not letting you go to any dumpster fire organizations. Now, I'm not saying this is us or whatever, but we're going to hear this on Jim Rome. My man, Dan Orlovsky, he kind of agrees. He feels like Coach Prime is not bluffing. He is not about to send his kid to any old place. Are you salty about that? Or are you saying good riddance? We don't need you anyway. We'll come back and talk about it. It's G. Bush here, right here on the Ultimate Browns. Well, of course we're talking about the Ultimate Browns. Your boy G. Bush gives you 2 episodes of the Ultimate Browns each and every week, Tuesday and Fridays. I give you the clips. Make sure draft season is coming up. You don't want to miss it. We're going to have draft analysts on here. We're kind of turning the page. Obviously, we're still going to cover the season, but this is where you get better. You're going to have to get better through the draft. There's some exciting prospects. We've already talked about Cam Ward. We'll get into left tackle. Is Jed Wills going to be out of here? It looks like he might be. DeJuan Jones is going to get an opportunity. Do you see them draft a receiver? Cedric Tillman. Is Cedric Tillman going to be the number 2? What are you guys thinking? We'll talk all about the draft coming up here, and that's going to be available right here on the Ultimate Browns twice every single week. College football playoff season is coming up, and the Buckeyes are back in it. Big game coming up next week against Indiana a couple weeks from now. Make sure you check out Dustin Fox and Tyvis Powell right here on the Ultimate Buckeyes. They'll be talking about all things playoffs, Big Ten championships coming up, and make sure you check those guys out as the college football season wanes down. You want to know everything going on with the Buckeyes. Check out Dustin and Tyvis. And guess what? You can only get it one place, right here on the UCSS network. Welcome back to the fastest 30 minutes in all of sports. It's your boy G. Bush right here with the Ultimate Browns, taking a little bit of a preview, deep dive into the draft. We've been talking about this throughout the show. And Shedeur Sanders is probably going to be one of the top guys taken off the board, if not the number one quarterback. But Coach Prime has always said, he said, no, I'm not going to let him play just for any old body. I'm going to get him to a team. He sees what's going on out here with the Bears. They're firing coordinators. There's a lot of teams. He saw what happened with Bryce Young and Richardson over in Indianapolis, right? Moving young guys in and out of the lineup, messing with their confidence. Coach Prime said, no. We picking certain teams that we're going to play for. And a lot of people are saying, come on, man, you ain't got the juice to do that, Coach Prime. Well, listen, Dan Orlovsky was on with Jim Rome, and he begs to differ.
Dan, what about the Sanders family? For instance, Dion says he's going to be heavily involved in the draft process. He's going to try and influence maybe where Shedeur and Travis Hunter go or they don't go. Is that possible? And how do you think Shedeur projects on the next level?
Oh, I don't think it's possible. I think it's going to happen. I think that Dion is, because of what we're watching right now, because of what we're watching with Indy in Chicago and in Carolina with Bryce. He is going to very much so control where Shedeur goes. He's not going to allow Shedeur to go to a place that hasn't developed a quarterback. He's not going to allow Shedeur to go to a person or a staff that doesn't have a track record of propping up and developing a quarterback. Shedeur, to me, and I haven't studied him thoroughly, but I've seen a good amount of his stuff, is Tua. It is a sudden athlete within the pocket. You've got premier ball placement. You can layer throws. He sees things before they happen. Those are a lot of great qualities. So I think, Shedeur, more than likely, worst case, is the fifth pick of the draft. I very much so see him going before that. But, yeah, I think that Dion will very much so control where he goes, plays in his NFL career.
I've been saying a lot of the same stuff. And when it comes to the Cleveland Browns, I got to keep it a buck. I'm not bashing the fan base. I'm not even really bashing the organization. All I'm saying is this is when you get a guy like Shedeur Sanders, you're going to have a guy who's going to have Coach Prime around. He's like a father to Travis Hunter. They're very strategic. They're business-minded. And this is a new wave of how things is moving. LeBron has pulled certain power moves the same way with Bronny James. But, guys, this is nothing new. This is nothing new. Before some people going to get up in arms, understand Bernie Kosar made moves like this. We talk to Bernie all the time. Like he said, no, I'm playing for my team, my home squad. That's the move he made. We talk about John Elway making that move. Listen, you draft me, Colts, go ahead, draft me. I'll go right back and play baseball. I ain't playing with you. What happened? Like we can go look at and see what happened with the Mannings. They said, I ain't playing in San Diego. I'm going to go right over to the Giants. This type of stuff has been happening since get-go. So this is nothing new. It hasn't happened in a while. And it just so happened that Coach Prime is a college football coach. Just so happens he happened to be one of the greatest athletes of all time. And he has the biggest pulpit in the world. He got the biggest megaphone in the world. And my question is, if the Browns are in contention for a quarterback, and Shedeur Sanders will probably be a top 5 pick and the Browns need a quarterback, then you're going to have to come to the conclusion of saying whether or not this is a move that the Browns fans base will be up for. Is this a move that the Browns, community is ready to get? And I've said this before on multiple platforms. We have told our fan base, we have sold the way we act. We say this is the Browns fan base. We are a blue collar area. We are hardworking. We want no nonsense. We don't play none of that. That's just what it is. That's the reality of the situation. We cherish Nick Chubb a lot because Nick Chubb turns around and hands that football back, and he's a great player. And I know some people will say, well, listen, G. Bush, as long as they come in here and win, we'll be fine. Winning cures all. Winning cures all. Come on, man. We had people, LeBron won at the highest level here, and we didn't like certain things LeBron did. We didn't like, people talked about his entourage being around all the time. People talked about him being passive aggressive in the media. People talked about his business moves and why it was more important for his business moves. We've heard people say all the time that those things meant something. We talk about it all the time. Hey, Instagram photos and watches and Odell Beckham Jr. If you think Odell Beckham Jr.'s dad was something, this is the number one dad in the game. You think he ain't gonna say something? Are you ready for that? Are you ready for, a quarterback being outspoken and doing certain things? And when I score, I am gonna show you the rollie. I am gonna do you like that. I do got a chain on up underneath my jersey. We cooking. So those are things that the Browns have to figure something out. Because look, when you draft a quarterback, you draft everything that comes with him. You can't separate it. You had Manziel. You went after Odell Beckham Jr. You had Baker Mayfield. There were things that come with Baker along with that as well. Deshaun Watson. We should be learning that when you draft somebody, you have to take everything that comes with them, good or bad. And we learned that the hard way. So my question to you is, do you believe that Deion Sanders, a.k.a. Coach Prime, would consider letting him come to Cleveland? And do you think the fan base would accept it? Let me know in the comment section, because this is going to be a conversation moving forward throughout the offseason, because you need a quarterback. He's going to be one of the top quarterbacks, and this is going to be one of the biggest narratives coming up. Make sure you let me know. I'm very interested to see what you guys put in the comment section below. With that being said, we want to let you guys know we want to continue to thank you for supporting us over here. Have a great weekend coming up. We will be back with you on Monday on UCSS from 11 to 1 p.m., and then we'll be back with another episode of the Ultimate Browns on Tuesday. With that being said, if you want a fresh take on sports, always come to the barbershop. I keep the clippers on me right here. You never know where I'm going to show up. Radio, TV, internet, wherever. G. Bush is global. He's everywhere. GNM himself. But if you want that fresh take, always remember in sports, I'm the place to get it. Have a good rest of your weekend, the beginning of your weekend, and as always, go Browns.